today I'm going to talk to you about making your chord changes a little bit easier. So chord changes should never really be thought of in pure isolation. For the purpose of what I'm going to show you today, I'm going to go through three chords. We're going to use a G, a D and an A. So our G chord is our first finger on the second fret of the C string, our third finger on the third fret of the E string, and our second finger on the second fret of the A string. Our next chord is a D, which ordinarily would be our index finger on the second fret of the G string, our second finger on the second fret of the C string, and our third finger on the second fret of the E string. And then an A, which is our second finger on the second fret of the G string, so hard to say these, and our first finger on the first fret of the C string. I've moved a little bit closer up to demonstrate this for you. So ordinarily when we're playing our G chord and we need to transition to our D chord, all of my fingers are going to have to come off in order to fret the D chord. Nothing's retained, none of the finger positions are retained, I have to let go of them all. Alternatively, what I like to do is change the way I play the D chord. So I start with my index finger on the second fret of the C string. I use my second finger on the G string at second fret and my third finger at the second fret of the E string. It's a little bit more bunched up, still a D chord. The reason I do that is now my index finger can stay there for both the D and the G. So if you watch the transition as I slowly transition from this D to this G, index finger stays on and I'm just moving two fingers. And I'm just going to switch back now to my D. So index finger stays in place, second finger drops to the top string and third finger drops underneath it. What I've done there is I've just made that transition a little bit simpler. One of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about is actually where you're going to as well. So in the intro I went from a G to a D to an A. And again, because I've played my D this slightly alternative way, where I've stacked my fingers in a different order, watch my transition to the A chord now. So all I have to do is slide my index finger back one and lift my third finger off. Very small movement there. There's less of a common change, but still useful. So it's really important to know where you've come from, which chord have you come from to get there, and which chord are you going to go to afterwards in order to pick out the best method of fretting. Isn't always the case that you should go with what the chord boxes tell you. Sometimes you might just need to play around with that. I was actually playing a piece of music recently and I ended up playing a C chord up here. And I was using my index finger on this 7th fret. And then I needed to drop to an E7. And I slid my finger down and then realised actually I've got to take all my fingers off to get to this E7. Which wasn't ideal. Whereas if I would have played that 7th fret with my third finger, I can just slide down and my fingers are in a much better position to be able to play that E7. And that's what it's about really. It's about looking for these opportunities to keep your fingers in place, to make the chord changes a lot easier for you so you're not having to move as many fingers. Another great example of this is the G to E minor, which is a really common transitional E minor to G. So E minor is normally played on a ukulele with your first finger, the second fret of the A string, your second finger on the third fret of the E string, and your third finger on the fourth fret of the C string. And it sounds like this. Nice chord, really nice chord. The transition from E minor there to a G, again, we're not really able to retain any of our finger positions, which makes it a little bit more awkward and is going to slow you down a little bit. The easiest way to transition from a G to an E minor is actually just to drop your pinky finger on this 4th fret on the C string. So I've got my G, E minor, Dead easy. I actually personally don't play that a lot, and really it's just because I've got pretty comfortable at switching from a standard G to a standard E minor, and I find it a little bit more difficult if I was moving from an E minor to a G to fret my E minor that way in the first instance to switch to the G. But just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. I think I was just, before I realised you could do that, I was a little bit too set in my ways and I'd already sort of drilled it in, playing it the other way. But it's really, really good to know where you've come from and where you're going to, so you can look for those opportunities to keep your fingers either on the same fret or just with the ability to just slide them slightly. It really does help, and it really will speed up your chord changes. So really that's the lesson today. It's to think about which chord you're coming from, where you're going to, and where you're going to next. If you think about those three things, you'll find easier ways to play the chords that you're playing, and that will mean you get more fluid transitions and you'll be faster at transitioning between chords as well. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you do like this video and it has helped you, sorry, my dog's making a racket down there. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Do subscribe if you like the channel, and also drop me a comment. I reply to pretty much every comment, because I live that side of a life where I just sit waiting for them to come in. So yeah, I will reply if you drop a comment. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.